In this section, we'll discuss the style form, which allows us to determine the style of elements within the application. The style form allows us to view the main UI of the application and touch various elements so we can customize their foreground color, background color, and font. There are a lot of limitations I imposed on this UI to keep things relatively simple. Fonts can't be customized on something that doesn't actually have a font, such as an icon. We only allow a very small selection of font options. The reason for that is difficulty of getting this right across platform where there are so many options available. The color picker is also a relatively simple widget that just allows us to drag the RGB channels or set the hex value of the color. I wanted to keep this UI as trivial as possible. You can reset the changes in two ways. Use the back button on the top left without saving, or use the Restore Style option within the pop-up dialog. The style form allows us to define that UI. Notice that it derives from form, but is otherwise a pretty standard class. We derive from form instead of the base form class, as we don't want the side navigation menu and other frills that come with a custom base class. There is another reason. We want to apply styling aggressively, and if we derive from the main form, we might run into some issues. The style setting class contains information about changes to a specific style. We use this to store the changes defined by the user and send this data to the user. I'll cover that class soon enough. The toolbar styling is something we need to do in code. Otherwise, when we start shifting styles around, things can get messy. This is the back command, and right below we can see the OK command with the check next to it. Both do exactly the same thing. They reload the builder theme so we can restore it just like we did in the preview code, then show the previous form. One thing I do want to highlight here is the insert or update call, which loops over the styles and saves them when we make a change. As you can see, the theme for the restaurant app is set when we first launch this form, so it controls most of the UI here. Moving ahead, we can see the code that deals with applying the styles saved in storage. We load the styles from storage and then loop over them. For each type, font, foreground or background, we create a theme entry. A theme in Codename 1 is a hash table that has keys and values with the format you see in the code. For instance, button.fgcolor represents the foreground color for the theme, and so forth. We can then use add theme props to layer this theme on top of the existing theme and thus load the style settings from the database. Moving on, we place the main menu form from the restaurant app in the center of the user interface so we can click on the actual restaurant app. Notice we make the toolbar focusable. We need that so that tapping on the toolbar will allow us to customize it. Otherwise, some special case logic of the form class might kick in. We override the pointer events in the form, such as pointer dragged, pressed, etc. If the event is in the content pane, we discard it. If not, we send it on. This allows events in the toolbar, but blocks events everywhere. This works because events in codename 1 propagate through the parent form. And so if we override the pointer events and don't call super, it's as if the event never happened. That can be useful if we want to provide complete custom functionality. The pointer released override is below the Getstar setting, and we'll discuss that more in depth soon enough. But first I want to talk a bit about Getstar settings method. This method caches styles from SQL and loads them lazily. You might think, why would we need that? The reason is cancel. We need the ability to cancel the changes so we can't persist every style change we make. We need to save them in the list and only update the database when the OK button is pressed.